Hello and how you doing, and welcome back to another episode of Two Jagoffs. I am your host, Austin Cairns, right here in Point Park's beautiful media hub, and we got a very special guest on this week. I've had a couple of my friends within the wrestling business on, some professional wrestlers, some wrestling broadcasters, but this week I'm going to bring on someone who I consider to be a mentor and who I consider to be a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and only Nick LENDL to the podcast. Nick, it's great to have you on.
Thanks, man. This is really nice.
I appreciate it. It's a nice little space we have up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are now the third wrestling broadcaster I've brought on this podcast.
That's awesome.
You are number 3.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The big number 3. So I kind of want to get to know your career a little bit more, though. So obviously, you've kind of taken me under your wing a little bit at IWC, which I greatly appreciate. And I've appreciated all the feedback you've given me, pushing me to be the best broadcaster I can be. But I want to get to know your career a little bit. Where did your wrestling broadcasting career begin?
My funny story at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando.
Wow.
So I was like you, man. I went to college with one goal in mind, and that was to be you want to be a commentator. I wanted to be a ring announcer. So along the same lines. But, you go to your guidance counselor or whatever it is, and they say, what do you want to do when you get out of here? And you say, I'm going to be a wrestling announcer. And they say, well, okay, that's a good idea. But, what about this? What about that? No, I'm going to be a wrestling announcer. So I kind of had no plan B. I wanted to do whatever I could to be a wrestling announcer. So I got in touch with Justin Roberts when I was in college. I went to Robert Morris. And honest to God, I swear, and now you're going to understand this a little more now. For the people at home, it's a little peek behind the curtain. My Uber driver got lost getting me here.
Yes.
So this is about 20 minutes late, and I apologize for that.
No worries at all.
I am terrible with directions. Anybody that knows me personally knows I'm a good driver, but I'm not good with directions. I get lost. I took me, Joe Mandek, and Prince Nana on the wrong side of the highway in Atlanta, something like that. Anyway, long story short, I'm late here. The entire reason I chose Robert Morris over Point Park was because I was worried about parking. And I was worried about how I was going to get to classes, and I was going to get lost. I swear, that is the absolute reason why.
That's the sole reason.
Yes, because I visited Robert Morris, and they have all these nice parking lots right by the classes and everything. So it was between Point Park, Robert Morris. So I rest my case. I was late here. The Uber driver had no idea. He actually just gave up and dropped me off at Market Square. So it was nice of you to come meet me. All right, I digress. So the reason I got into wrestling broadcasting was because I saw some kind of money grab from WWE, to be honest with you. And it was come and visit the Performance Center. Mm-hmm. This is 2015. So the Performance Center is fairly new at this point. They had the first 25 people to sign up and pay a pretty hefty fee will get access to the Performance Center. So you get a tour of the Performance Center. You get to talk to the wrestlers. You get to interact with them and ask them questions. And the big headline for me was I never got starstruck. I've met so many awesome legends and Hall of Famers in this business, but to me, I've never really, it's cool to meet them, but I've never been really like, So all I cared about was this, at the end, a little paragraph that said, following the tour, there will be a, 5 to 10 minute Q&A with the staff and the wrestlers. So I thought, okay, I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to fly myself to Orlando. I'm going to go to this Performance Center tour, and afterwards, when they do that Q&A, I'm going to raise my hand and say, I want to be a ring announcer. I'm in college right now, or no, I had graduated at that time. What's the next step, So, crazy turn of events. I fly to Orlando with my wife, and we go to the Performance Center, and Matt Bloom was there, and I showed up in a suit. I was, they say you dress the part you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to the Performance Center right away, Matt Bloom said, do you want to ring announce today? And I'm like, what? Like, so you remember whenever you were at AEW
Yeah.
and they came up to you and they said, hey, you want to commentate a match? That feeling, okay? Because to me, I'm trying to get past this tour. I'm trying to get past all the goo goo gaga, and I'm trying to just wait till this Q&A so I can ask, what do I do? And Matt Bloom says, we're going to have a special in-house event. So they had put on 4 or 5 matches just for the 25 of us that paid to tour the Performance Center. And they had me ring announce 3 of the 5 matches, which was crazy. Yeah. So I announced, and this, keep in mind that this is a time where all these people are in NXT. They're not on the main roster yet. I announced the main event was Bayley versus Alexa Bliss.
What a match.
For the NXT Women's Championship. Okay. So that was the main event. I also announced, Ty Dillinger at the time, Sean Spears. I can't remember who he was facing. I never got footage of that, so I can't remember. But the first match I ever announced was the Iconics. It was Peyton Royce and Billie Kay versus Noof and Gianna Daddio. Okay, and those names might not sound familiar. Noof went on to be Aaliyah. So she was in WWE for a while. She got released a year or 2 ago. And Gianna Daddio is Liv Morgan.
Wow.
So the first ever match I announced in my professional career was Billie Kay and Peyton Royce versus Aaliyah and Liv Morgan. And afterwards, they had sent me all kinds of footage from the event and pictures and headshots and all this stuff they took of me. And from there, I asked Matt Bloom, what do I do now? This was a dream come true, but what's the next step? Because I want to be a part of this. And then he actually sent out some feelers to some indies, which was actually pretty cool. And I ended up hearing from IWC, which was turning point in my whole career, because I still to this day, after everything I've done and everything I will do or whatever, if it ended today, I would consider IWC my home. I love that place. I love everybody in that locker room, and IWC, it just feels different when I'm there.
Feels like home.
Yes.
Feels like home. So
absolutely.
WWE, IWC, what are some of the other companies you have experience either doing stuff with or being behind the scenes for?
Well, so once I started with IWC, Justin Plummer invited me to a show. I hung out backstage and kind of just watched the show, got a feel for it. And from there, we, talked about me coming on as a commentator and ring announcer. So from the end of 2015 until now, I've been pretty consistent with IWC. I've only missed a handful of shows in the last 10 years. Which is pretty crazy. Super Indie this year was actually my 10th Super Indie, which
that's crazy.
Like looking back on it, it went fast, but it didn't go fast. If that makes sense. So anyway, on the side, I was doing some boxing events at the local casinos, some MMA events, just getting out there more. And eventually, I ended up landing a tryout with Ring of Honor, and me and Joe Mandak actually tried out together, and both got the thumbs up from the tryout there. And from 2017 up until when Tony Khan bought the company, me and Joe were full-time with Ring of Honor. That was a blast.
And you were ring announcing for Ring of Honor at the time?
Yeah, I was Bobby Cruz's backup. So if Bobby Cruz needed off because his daughters, they were in college at the time, if they had some kind of special event, Bobby would miss the show and I would be his backup. But what I was doing full time was I was the almost the host of the show. Mm-hmm. So as people were coming into the building and people were finding their seats, I'm hyping the matches. They also had me do some stuff on social media. So I was just taking pictures of people backstage and posting them from the official Ring of Honor page.
Oh, wow.
Stuff like that. And then, from that point, that led to me being on pay-per-view, me being on TV, Madison Square Garden.
That's crazy.
Unbelievable time.
And when you mentioned the Madison Square Garden, and I know we talked a little bit off camera about that. Do you mind speaking on camera on that? What was that experience like? Because Madison Square Garden, for so many competitors, athletes, broadcasters, that's like the dream place to be.
Yeah, I can honestly say from the time I was a little boy, I always wanted to be a wrestling announcer. Mm-hmm. But I also wanted to be a dad, and I also wanted to be a husband. And I knew that the WWE lifestyle would not be for me because I get homesick. I don't like being away from my family. Even on 2 and 3 day Ring of Honor loops, you know, I'd be calling my wife 2-3 times a day, just saying I just want to come home, you know. And you're living your dream, you know. It's so WWE lifestyle wasn't for me. So I never. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Announcing at WrestleMania, that'd be awesome, you know, huge bucket list moment. But I never really dreamed of being in the WWE or announcing at WrestleMania. My ultimate goal was to announce at Madison Square Garden because that's a universal language. Mm-hmm. So whether it's boxing, whether it's you know, a rock and roll concert, whatever it is, Madison Square Garden is the place. So if you say to somebody, hey, I'm a wrestling announcer, and they say, oh, that's cool, what have you done? And you say, I announced at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
People that know wrestling are going to say, wow, that's awesome. But people that don't know wrestling are going to say, oh, that's pretty cool. WrestleMania, that sounds like a big show. You know, they don't know. But if you say, I announced at Madison Square Garden, a wrestling fan is going to know what that means and the magnitude of that. Also, somebody that has no idea about wrestling is going to say, wow, Madison Square Garden, that's pretty big. So to me, the ultimate goal was to announce at Madison Square Garden. And just with the relationship Ring of Honor had with New Japan, that just all kind of fell into place. And I got really lucky, to be honest with you.
Wow, what an experience I bet that was, too. So you were doing Ring of Honor at the time for
yes.
Madison Square Garden. Did you call like the entire show, essentially, or was there just a couple matches?
No, I announced a Women of Honor match because they had – Bobby Cruise was there. So okay. now here's another backstory, which Bobby Cruise, he's still with AEW right now. He still ring announces for Ring of Honor. He did so many great things for me in my time with Ring of Honor. You know, it was always Bobby that was pushing for me. Anytime that Bobby would miss a show, he would always make sure that it was me that got the spot. And then as I found out later, at the G1 Supercard at Madison Square Garden, the Japanese announcer was going to announce the New Japan matches, and Bobby Cruise was going to announce the Ring of Honor matches. And you know, me and Bobby had become really close friends. You know, like he's still a big mentor to me, and he really put himself on the line for me, which I'll never be able to tell him how grateful I am for that. But he was the one that actually pitched for me to have a match at Madison Square Garden because they were very slim on who they were bringing to the show. And I don't think I was figured into the plans at all. And Bobby called Delirious, who was the booker at the time, and said, hey, I'd really like to get Nick a match at the Garden. And the respect that Bobby has, not only from Delirious, but from the locker room and everybody else, that got like cleared in 10 seconds. Wow. So Bobby called me and said, hey, you're going to have a match at the Garden. So I announced it was a 6-women match. Hana Kimura, who actually passed away a few years ago, it was Hana Kimura, and I can't even remember the other people's names because Hana Kimura sticks out to me so much. But, you know, just being able to stand in Madison Square Garden, and my wife's a huge hockey fan. So you're standing there and you look and there's all these Rangers banners and, you know, that was pretty cool. And, you know, after that, it was just kind of like that was my I made it moment. I didn't care if I ever announced again. I didn't care what happened from then because that was the ultimate goal. And I did it, and Ring of Honor, pretty close to IWC, but still, I mean, even after Madison Square Garden, like when I get to IWC, there's still a special place for that.
I could tell just by the smile on your face. Like,
Yeah.
you genuinely love that, and that's what makes it so special.
A lot of people have really helped me out in IWC. That's where I met Joe Dombrowski, who's one
Legend.
of my best friends. He is. Yeah, I mean, my God. I'm glad he's finally getting his flowers because there were so many years that Joe Dombrowski was the best unsigned commentator in the wrestling business. And now he's in MLW, and it's crazy to me because I was like you. Mm-hmm. I knew Joe Dombrowski, and I thought, man, Joe Dombrowski, I want to be like that guy. Look what he did. He was the announcer at TNA, and he did the house show or whatever. And oh man, Joe Dombrowski did this interview with Kevin Nash, and man, if I could just do that. And now when I think of Joe Dombrowski, I think of our private texts we have to each other in a text stream with a couple other people where we just make fun of people. And, now like Joe Dombrowski's my friend, it's crazy to think. And I still do think the world of him, and I do respect him more than a lot of people in this business. But it's funny to me how much I thought of him before, and now he's just like my buddy.
He's just your buddy.
He's my buddy.
I've been with Joe Dombrowski in the car a couple of times. I've been to Eaton Park with him now. Brazilian
Eaton
Steakhouse.
Park. Oh.
Yeah. I think it's funny enough. I don't know if Joe told you this or not. Did you know the same Eaton Park that you met him at, I actually met him at?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. He told me that. He was like, I hope you know, when Nick LENDL was first breaking in, he had the same conversation with me at the same Eaton Park. I said, wow.
When I met with Joe Dombrowski at that Eaton Park, I thought I was meeting with Vince McMahon.
I thought so too.
I had, and he'll tell you this if you ask him, I had a binder of the stuff I had done at Robert Morris.
Oh, wow.
Because at Robert Morris, I was on the the TV crew, and I did the the production and everything for their weekly Moon Township news station, whatever the hell it was, and I was showing them just different clips that I had shot and anything just to make this guy impressed with me. You know what I mean? And that's what's so funny, like looking back on it, how many adventures I've had with Joe Dombrowski since that day. And to me, like, that was like, I was shaken almost to meet this guy. And then since then, I've been trapped in a parking garage with him. We've been stranded outside of a hotel because someone got their wires crossed and didn't get us either of us a hotel room when we were working for Ring of Honor. Adam Page actually paid for us to get a room, which is another peek behind the curtain, which is pretty cool. But Joe Dombrowski, all the respect in the world for him, and I can't say enough good things about Joe and what he's done for me, and I hope he does the same for you.
Oh, he has absolutely done the same for me. Would you say Joe's your biggest mentor in this business?
Between Joe and Bobby Cruz.
Those are probably your two?
Yes.
What's some great mentors, too, to have?
Yeah, Bobby Cruz is still a guy that, even though I'm not with Ring of Honor anymore, I can still text Bobby, and, we could just shoot the breeze and, just talk to each other. And last time he was, not this past time, but the last time AEW was in Pittsburgh, we actually met up after the show and got something to eat after, just talked about life and talked about his girls and talked about my girls, and what a change my life has been since Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor. Because when I found out Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor, I thought my career was done. That was, everybody else was excited. I knew I was done. And since then, I've realized that I care more about my daughter's softball schedule than I do professional wrestling. And that's something that you could never tell 20-year-old Nick LENDL, that one day, you're going to, not take a booking because your daughter has a softball tournament, or, you're going to be at an arena about to go live on pay-per-view, and all you're going to be doing is looking at the the updates for your daughter's softball game. Like that's unbelievable to me. So for me to go, like, because I was just like you, man. The only thing I ever wanted to do was be a wrestling announcer, and it's like I still love it, and it's still my passion. But like I said before, like being a dad and a husband was always above that.
Would you say that's what matters most to you right now is family? Like family over everything?
Yes. Yeah. I told you off air, you've had so many awesome people on this podcast in and out of the wrestling business, but I feel like everybody that you've had on this show has to maintain some kind of personality, in the sense that some of them are signed by big companies and some of them are aspiring to get that contract. So they don't want to say anything negative. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or get any heat from anybody. And me, like, I don't care. So that's why I'm like I told you off air, I'm an open book. Anything I say is 100% honest because I'm not worried what anybody thinks. But to this day, I don't know. I'm very satisfied with what I've done.
So you would say you've made it, like all the dreams that you had, you accomplished up to this point?
No.
There's still more stuff you would love
to try.
Not at all.
I mean, there are things that I dreamed of that'll never happen. I always wanted to have my own action figure. I wanted to be the first person people thought of when they thought of, ring announcers, and that stuff's never going to happen. But when in the scheme of things, when I started in this business, all I ever wanted the chance to do was just stand in the ring and just hold a microphone and be able to be an announcer.
Right.
And all the opportunities since then and all the people I've met and all the companies I've worked for and all the states I've gone to, it's just something that I even back then I would have never expected.
Right. And you talk about your love for the ring announcing, but something you also do is play-by-play commentary. I know you've been doing that a lot with IWC. Is that also a passion that you have? Is that also just something you're doing on the side? Because again, I know in this business, you can't just be a one-trick pony. You can't just do one thing. Obviously, you have more of a love for ring announcing. Obviously, I have more love for play-by-play commentary. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't like commentary.
You don't like commentary? You're damn good at it, though.
A lot of people will tell you. I was, when I talked to Justin Plummer about starting with IWC, I wanted to be a ring announcer. And they had Dave Kitch. Dave Kitch started with IWC about 6 months before I did. So they said, we have a ring announcer and, we have two commentators. At that point, they were rotating between Dombrowski and Jay Farnsworth and just a couple other people that were in that spot. But Plummer said that he wanted to start incorporating more like backstage interviews and more social media interviews. So he said maybe you could start off as, a backstage correspondent. So I did that for a few months, and then it ended up Joe wasn't at a show, and they ended up throwing me in commentary. And then eventually they ended up having me split time with Kitch. And then I was kind of just like the utility guy for a while. So I would split ring announcing with Kitch. I would commentate when Joe wasn't there. I would do the backstage interviews that they would post on social media. And then it became, I became the full-time ring announcer. And I was only doing ring announcing, which that's my passion.
That's your bread and butter.
And Joe Dombrowski, once he signed with MLW, he's not allowed to appear on pay-per-view other than MLW, or there's something written in his contract. So I've been doing the lead play-by-play when Joe's not there, kind of just because I'm in that spot. For a while, it was me and BC Steele, which that's another guy that, peek behind the curtain. Funny as hell. Like BC Steele's one of the funniest guys I've ever met in my life. Working with him was great. He stepped away this past year, and they brought on Dom, and me and Dom have great chemistry, I think. And now I like the fact that you're able to come into the swing of things, because I feel like, and I don't want to, make myself sound on any level that Joe Dombrowski is, but I feel like I want to help you out the way that Joe helped me out, in the sense that this past IWC event, I was not there. I was announcing boxing pay-per-view. So I messaged Orion and I messaged CJ, and I asked, hey, I got to do this boxing event. Can Austin fill in? And right away, they were like, yeah, if you think he's ready, yeah, we'll put him in. And I want to give, not to get me off commentary because I hate it, but I want to give you more and more opportunities, because it's like, I know I told you this off air, you do so many things that I wasn't willing to do when I was in college. Like, people say, okay, you want to be an announcer, maybe you should announce some of like the Robert Morris basketball games. Mm-hmm. Nah, I don't want to do that. All right, well, hey, why don't you be the announcer for the the award ceremony or whatever? Yeah. Why don't you start your own podcast? No. You know what I mean? All that I didn't want to do, you're doing. And you're a lot younger than me. You have no wife. You have no kids.
Nope. Hell no. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So
down the line.
So I think you have the perfect opportunity to make it. And, there's been some people that they have thrown at me over the years. Ring of Honor, IWC, Premier, even some boxing events that they've introduced me to some people, and they say, hey, they're going to work with you tonight, or they're going to announce this, and they're awful. And I know within 30 seconds of meeting them or 30 seconds of hearing them live that they don't have it. But you do.
Thank you.
And I mean that. I'm not blowing smoke. I've even talked about that with Joe and Palace and a couple other people.
Palace is great, yeah.
Yeah, Palace is my buddy.
Even though he put me through a table, but that's a different story.
Well, I think, you deserved that.
Oh, yeah. I kind of did. But.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I really appreciate those kind words, Nick, and that really does mean a lot to me. And that just shows that a part of this business and any kind of broadcasting business is to pay it forward.
Yes.
Pay it forward to that next generation. And like you just said, Joe once did it with you. Now you're starting to do it with me. I one day eventually will hopefully do it with someone else.
Yeah.
That's what the business is all about. It's all about giving back.
Absolutely.
Now, whenever I know you said you hate commentary. Do you really despise it that much? Because I'm going to give you a compliment. You're pretty good at commentary. I've learned a lot from you.
It's not that I don't think I'm good at it.
You don't think you are?
No. So here's the difference. When I ring announce, and I'm in the ring, and I ring announce a match, at the end, I'm like, man, that was good. Like, I feel like I'm one of the best ring announcers around. Call me big-headed, whatever. When I ring announce, I'm like, yeah, that was awesome. When I commentate, I feel like I'm just any other schmuck on the indies calling a match. I don't think I stand out above anybody. I don't think there's anything I do that screams like, oh, wow. Like, if I was trying to get signed somewhere, I don't think when I ring announce, scouts or whoever you want to call it would look at me and say, wow, that dude's a damn good ring announcer. But when I commentate, I don't think there's anything about me that stands out that would make somebody want to sign me, that would say, I want that guy on my show, which is why when Joe's there, I would rather have Joe commentate, because I think Joe is a much better commentator than me. I'm not the only one that thinks so. And it's not that I hate it. It's just that, if you're playing football and, you're an offensive lineman, and then you drop 20 pounds and they want you to be a tight end and you have no idea what you're doing. It's kind of like that, I started varsity the last 2 years as an offensive lineman, and now they switched me to tight end my senior year, and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you saying that, but I don't know. I do think I've gotten better as the years have gone on.
Especially filling in for Joe all those years.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that goes back to the beginning. I've learned so much from Joe, and I still take a lot from Joe.
Would you say that there was any favorite ring announcers that you had growing up, or maybe ring announcers that you try to idolize yourself to be?
Tony Chimmel.
Tony Chimmel, okay.
Tony Chimmel.
What was that, Ruthless Aggression era?
Tony Chimmel was around for a long time before you were born.
Oh yeah, I'm 21, so yeah.
Tony Chimmel was he was around in the 80s. He was on the ring crew and, kind of like a backstage role. And then in the 90s, they eventually gave him the microphone and let him kind of rotate with Finkel. And everybody, to this day, Howard Finkel is the greatest of all time. And I'm not going to say that Howard Finkel's not, because I grew up on Howard Finkel. But to me, there was just something about the way Tony Chimmel announced. And when I started ring announcing, I 100% just did Tony Chimmel. I just did Tony Chimmel. And once I started watching Bobby Cruz, I kind of blended those two together. So my style of ring announcing, I would say, is a mix between Tony Chimmel and Bobby Cruz. And I actually got to meet Tony Chimmel a few years ago at an AEW show. That was pretty cool. He was working, I forget what he was doing, some kind of backstage role, but he was with them for a few months. And there was a house show in Ohio, and they had me on that show, and Tony Chimmel was there, and I got to meet him, and he reminded me a lot of Joe Dombrowski in a sense of when I told him, like, you're my favorite ring announcer of all time, and like, man, I looked up to you. Instead of saying like, oh, well, thank you, that really means a lot to me, he goes, why? Me? What do you mean? Why not Lillian? So he was a good sport about it. But yeah, definitely Tony Chimmel growing up.
Tony Chimmel's the guy.
I love Tony Chimmel.
Tony Chimmel. I mean, who else is there? There's Howard Finkel, Lillian Garcia. There's a lot of great ones from WWE.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of thinks of Howard Finkel, Tony Chimmel, Lillian, Justin Roberts. Samantha Irvin over the last couple of years. Alicia Taylor now.
Alicia Taylor. Yeah, Justin Roberts was the one that I grew up on. So whenever I did the whole AEW experience and he announced my name, I was like, oh my goodness, that's like a dream come true, because that was literally the guy I watched growing up.
Yes, yeah. I met Justin Roberts at a Raw taping in I think it was 2009 or 2010 when I was still in college. And I got to talk to him for a couple minutes, and I just asked him, what do I need to do, because I want to be a wrestling announcer. Mm-hmm. And he said, get a degree in communications. So that's where I was going to go. That's why I decided to do Robert Morris or Point Park. I was down to that, but I knew I was going to do communications because that's what Justin Roberts told me to do. And I actually got to work with Justin a few times over the last couple of years, and, he's a good guy too.
Out of all the matches that you've called, whether it's been ring announcing, play-by-play, IWC, boxing, anything that you've done in your time, what would you say is your most proud moment and your favorite that you've called?
That's hard to say because it depends on which way you look at it, So, like I said, I announced Bayley versus Alexa Bliss, and that was for the NXT Women's Championship.
Can't get any bigger than that.
So that's the only WWE championship match I've announced. So is that the biggest, or is the biggest when I announced at Madison Square Garden because it was Madison Square Garden? Or is it something like, announcing, the Hardy Boys or, Team 3D or Kurt Angle or, any of these, big names that showed up at IWC or any of these other places? It's hard to say. For me, the biggest thing I've ever done, obviously, is Madison Square Garden. My favorite match that I've ever commentated, I was alone on commentary at an event in Clearfield, probably 2017, 2018, and there's probably 50 people there. The main event is Wardlow and RC Dupree in a ladder match for the IWC Championship. And I don't know why, but that sticks out to me as one of the favorite matches I've called. Another one is when Duke Davis beat Bill Collier for the World Heavyweight Championship at IWC, because I felt that. You try to explain to people that aren't into wrestling or they don't understand wrestling, you try to explain to them what it means when, it's real you know, and that to me felt so real, you know, even though you say what you want, but that was a real moment to me.
Yeah. Especially with everything that led up to that, because I mean, how long Bill's held it for, obviously the back and forth battles with Plummer and Duke and everything. I was up on hard cam still that night. That was before I even did commentary. So I felt exactly what you were feeling down there on commentary.
See, that's another thing about you. Like, see, you paid your dues. Like, you didn't just come in and they give you a headset or a microphone.
Nope.
You know, you were filming. You were like, yeah.
Pulled cable, edited.
Yes.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It took me, I think, 6 months at IWC before they gave me my first match.
Okay.
It took about 6 months.
Wow.
It wasn't that bad, but it was, again, just like you said, right place, right time. Spot opened up. Joe wasn't there. You weren't there. Let's do it.
Now, I know there was a time a couple months ago where I had to do a boxing event, and they were scrambling.
Yeah.
You know, I tried helping them out, getting somebody else, and, you know, at the last minute, you know, they ended up working it out. But the difference was, I think that was in July, and then this is November when I was missing this show, and when I said, you know, I can't make the show, can we put Austin in there instead? It was right away. That's the difference. Within 6 months,
wow, they
had the trust in you to just say, yep, that's fine, instead of, oh, what are we going to do? I don't think that kid's ready. You know, and they were able to put you in. That speaks a lot to you.
I appreciate that. And you know what the honest truth is, Nick? I was so nervous whenever they said yes. I'll be honest with you, because, I mean, I was excited. I knew I'd be able to do it and I'd be able to handle it. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, man, full show on my own. They're trusting me. This $1 million man's going to be there. World titles on the line. There's a lot of high stakes at that show. Mm-hmm. And they trusted me to do it. So that really meant a lot.
Yeah, that's how the way I found out I was announcing my first Ring of Honor show was in a tweet. So me and Joe Mandek, we went to the Ring of Honor tryout. And they said yes to both of us, but the deal was they don't give you a contract, they don't sign you. They want to see if you'll put in the work. Mm-hmm. So they don't say, yes, we want to sign you, or, you know, no. They either give you a yes or a no based on if they would put you on TV tomorrow. Mm. So they said yes to me and Joe Mandek. So they said, that doesn't mean you're signed to a contract. That just means that would put you on. You're ready. So they said, here's a list of our dates for the rest of the year. Said, if you show up to these dates, we'll find a spot for you. So the tryout was middle of June, and the next date was first or second week of July in North Carolina. And I got a couple of my buddies, and we got a hotel room, and we drove to North Carolina, and I showed up, and I met Bobby Cruz, and Ian Riccaboni actually introduced me to Bobby Cruz and said, this is Nick LENDL. You know, we gave him the nod at a tryout. He wants to learn from you. Because that's another thing, too. Like, you don't want to walk into a place and have them think like you're coming for their spot.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want Bobby to think like, who's this, you know, punk coming for my spot? I've been here for 15 years. But me and Bobby, you know, hit it off really fast, you know, became good friends, and he gave me the dark match that night. So I didn't get paid, but I got to announce live for Ring of Honor in the dark match. So then the next event is in Philadelphia. So me and Joe Mandek, we drive to Philadelphia. We get our hotel room. Same thing. They let Joe referee the dark match. They let me announce the dark match. Didn't get paid. Just thanks for the opportunity. Then the next event was in Atlanta. So me and Joe Mandek flew ourselves to Atlanta. So I paid for the hotel and he paid for the airfare, or vice versa. And that was the event where I ended up kissing the ring for Cody Rhodes. And they wanted to do it with Bobby, but they were worried about embarrassing Bobby on TV because he was so established and respected. So the deal was Cody was going to come out and reveal the Ring of Honor, and he wanted everybody, you know, to kiss it or whatever. So I was a nobody at the time, so they put me on TV to come down and reveal the Ring of Honor, and Cody paid me to kiss it, you know. And then backstage, he let me keep the money.
Oh, wow.
Which was crazy, yeah. So he just opened his wallet and just said, "Here you go." There's a couple $100 in there.
You got to keep a couple hundred for Cody. That's actually sick.
And so I'm waiting backstage, you know, at Gorilla for him to come back and give him the money back, you know. Mm-hmm. And because that was the first time I was ever live on TV.
Yeah.
And Cody comes back, and I'm like, oh, thank you so much, sir. And he's like, oh, no, that's yours, buddy. And it was like, what the hell? And then at the end of the night, I got an envelope with, I think, $200 in it, just first time being paid.
Wow.
So I was doing that for a while. I did that in Buffalo. I did that at the Manhattan Center in New York City, Hammerstein Ballroom, all these different places that me and Joe were just going to. Well, then eventually it got to the point where they started paying us. They started giving us airfare. They started getting us a hotel room. So it, worked out. And for a few years there, my family was paying our bills off of Ring of Honor, which is the dream.
That's cool.
Didn't last too long, but so anyway, Bobby Cruz missed the show in Pittsburgh at Stage AE. Just the way things fall into place. His daughter had maybe a hockey game or something, so Bobby couldn't go to the show, and he went to Delirious and said, "Nick can do it. Nick's ready." And he never told me. I just found out because I was tagged in a tweet that said, sorry, everybody, I'll be unable to attend the event tonight, but Pittsburgh's own Nick LENDL will be, filling in for me on the microphone. And I'm like, what? Because at this point, I have my wife coming, I have my friends coming, my mom and dad are coming because...
I got a whole crowd, yeah.
But they were already coming because I just thought, I'm going to do the dark match. Mm-hmm. And, I'm in my hometown, I'm going to do the dark match, and you can see me. Well, I found out I'm doing the whole show, which was unbelievable because on that show's the Briscoes, the Young Bucks, the Motor City Machine Guns, Cody, Kenny Omega, Hiroshi Takahashi. I don't know did I say that right? Hiromu Takahashi. I don't know. I might be wrong. Minoru Suzuki, Adam Page, like all the Bullet Club, it was just, Will Ospreay was on that show.
Wow.
And that was the first show I ever announced for Ring of Honor, just open to close. It was like unbelievable.
Wow, what an experience. And I can only imagine what your family was like, too, in the crowd the whole time. Did you tell them beforehand that you were doing the whole show, or did you just let it be a surprise?
No, I told them.
You told them?
Yeah.
I would have told them, too.
Yeah, as soon as I read that tweet, I told my wife right away. I called my parents right away because they couldn't believe it, because it was like the first real opportunity that I had on a bigger stage.
Right.
Because I had done IWC and I was working for Joe's company, Premier in Cleveland, and I had done the boxing and MMA, here and there. But that was a live stream, iPay-per-view, a lot of pressure because, I had never done this before. I had never worked with an earpiece, so they're giving me cues in my ear, which I was not used to.
What was that like? What kind of cues were they giving you?
Well, you don't talk over the ring announcer. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I know
Yep.
As a commentator. Even if you're in the middle of a sentence,
stop.
The ring announcer's talking, you just shut up. So I didn't want, they have the commentary in my earpiece. So if Ian Riccaboni or Caprice Coleman, whoever it is talking, I don't talk over them. And a lot of times Ian would shoot to me. Like Ian would say, all right, let's send it to Nick LENDL for the in-ring introductions, And then when I heard that, I would go. So it wasn't like, Bandito's coming to the ring and, all right, everybody, here's Bandito, the Ring of Honor, the following contest. Like, so it's not interrupting them. And IWC does that now too, which is a huge improvement. IWC, I've worked so many indies, and IWC is the closest thing to a television production that I've seen on the independents.
They got a nice production.
Absolutely. Really? Jeremy and the guys at 2 to 1, they have their stuff together. Plummer, you got to give him a lot of credit because he's really put everything he has into this company. And, guys backstage, Orion, CJ, they work their ass off, and, they don't get their flowers a lot of the time.
No, they for sure deserve their flowers. And even as someone like a young 21-year-old like myself, they trusted me enough to come in there, run all this video equipment, be on hard cam, be on ringside cam a couple of times,
yes,
and then call a full show. So you could tell that really does mean a lot to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can tell whenever they can see whenever people...
They can see right through you.
Yes.
Yeah, they can see like who's in this for real and who's just
Yes.
here just because you're a fan and you want to see how things go on,
Yep.
which I have seen already in the wrestling business, which is still crazy to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they move on just like that.
Yeah, no, you'll see them one week and then they're gone, and you're like, oh, okay, well, they were just here to.
Yeah, I guess they're gone.
Yep. Oh, well. Well, before we end things off today, I did have another question for you, and it was about your entire career. You've shared with me a lot of great advice, and I know a lot of people have shared with you some great advice. If you don't mind, for the audience, maybe share them a piece of advice. If they're looking to get into this business, whether it's professional wrestling, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's even boxing even, what would you tell them?
Don't take no for an answer. If you have a dream and you have a passion for something, you can do it. Both of us are living proof of that. If it depends on what level you're talking about. But to me, all I've ever wanted to do was be a pro wrestling announcer. And by hook or crook, I did it. I've done some cool things. I've never made it to the top of the business, as you would say. But I did it, and I'm very satisfied with what I did. And I was told no many times. And if I was told no and accepted that, I would have never done anything I've done in the last 10 years. You're going to hear no. And a lot of the time, it's not because you're not good enough. It's just because there's already someone there, especially for us. If there's a wrestler and they send in tape after tape after tape, they might eventually, hey, come on, we'll put you in a battle royal. Or come on, hey, we'll put you in the pre-show match, But if you're an announcer and you send tape, sorry, we already have an announcer. It's not that our announcer's better or you're better or whatever. It's we already have an announcer. He's already set up. We already pay him this much. We don't need you. And that's when you understand that you're not the star of the show. You are there to build the stars. You are there to show the people who the stars are. And I learned that very fast in the sense that once I started with Ring of Honor, I thought at the next IWC show, people are going to be coming up to me, asking me for my autograph and stuff because I'm on Ring of Honor TV. And it wasn't the case because at the end of the day, I'm still an announcer. I'm not the star, But if I would have given up, I would have never learned anything that I've learned over the last 10 years. I would have never been anywhere. So you're gonna hear no, but that doesn't mean no for everybody, and just like if you would have reached out to Justin Plummer or whatever it was 2 years ago and said, hey, my name's Austin Cairns. I'm at Point Park University. I'd really love to get into wrestling announcing. Plummer, if he even responds to your message, because he has hundreds of messages every day from people trying to get booked, trying to get work, and that's no knock on him. He just doesn't have the time. He's a full-time job, a full-time, a family at home. But if they said to you, Plummer got back to you and said, sorry, buddy, we're kind of full. We don't have any room for you. And you just said, okay, I tried. All right, maybe I'll, see if I could be like a high school basketball announcer or something. You can't give up. Same thing with Joe Dombrowski. Joe Dombrowski didn't just get let in the door. Other people that came before both of us. Like I said, Tony Chimmel was on the ring crew for about 15 years before they even gave him a microphone. So pay your dues, do what you have to do, but don't give up because you can do it, and it's the same thing I'm telling my daughters right now, because they watch me and they realize that, wow, my dad did what he wanted to do. Maybe I can, whether that's, play softball or, whatever they want to do. They know that it's possible because their dad did it. And that's the biggest compliment I could have.
Words of wisdom spoken, huh?
Absolutely.
Words of wisdom spoken. How many daughters do you have?
2 daughters.
You have 2 daughters. What are their names?
Isabel and Juliet.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How old are they?
Isabel's 11, Juliet's 7. Isabel plays travel softball. Then my youngest, Juliet, plays for the school. So she's done for the year until spring, but Isabel's, round year, they're starting to play inside now. And it's so crazy, man, because like I said before, all my life, all I wanted to do was, be a pro wrestling announcer. And there are so many times where I have to miss one of my daughter's games because I'm booked somewhere and I'm living my dream. This is the only thing I ever wanted to do. And I want to be at my daughter's game. And that really hits home, And I say Wrestling is the most important of the least important things.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
That's a good way to
Yes.
put it.
Yes.
I can't fully relate because I don't obviously have any kids
Yes.
myself, so I don't understand that full love for it. But seeing it with the way you talk and with the way my dad talks to my sister Isabella, I can kind of understand and see like, well, yeah, just because you have this lifelong dream, you want to be there, you want to be at WWE, you want to be at WrestleMania, even if you are there. Love for a daughter never goes away. Love for a son never goes away.
No, and you know, like I said, there were times in Ring of Honor where I remember a show in Milwaukee, and you know, I'm at a table, and like picture this, okay? I'm at dinner because I'm in a van with Shane Taylor, Jeff Cobb, PJ Black, Justin Gabriel, Josh Woods, and I don't know if it was Matt Taven or somebody else. But there's like 6 or 7 of us at a table, and there's people coming up to, not me, but them, you know.
Yeah.
Marty Skrull was there too. Just, you know, like, hey, great show tonight, you know, hey, you know, and I should feel like just this pride, you know, because this is a dream. Like, I'm eating dinner with these guys. And I'm texting my wife like, yeah, like, I wish I was home. So that's when it clicked to me. Like, I could not live that lifestyle.
Could outlive the mainstream, traveling all over the place.
Nope.
So that's why you're happy with the IWC. Yep.
Very happy with what I'm at, where I'm at, what I've done, and what I will do.
Hell yeah. I got one final question for you, Nick.
Okay.
And I ask every guest this, and I know you said you listen to Joe, so you might expect what's coming next. What's the go-to restaurant? Favorite place to grab a meal? I'm a big foodie on the podcast. I love talking restaurants. Favorite place to grab a meal?
My favorite place to eat is, you're gonna laugh, I love Eaton Park. That's a secret of mine that you know, Eaton Park's my go-to. But if you want a good meal, you got to check out Bravo on McKnight Road. They got some great Italian food, some great bartenders. Got to check that place out.
That's not that far from me. I live in Carnegie, so it's not that
check
far
it
at
out.
all. I have to go.
Check it
What's the
out.
go-to thing at Eaton Park?
All right, I either get salad bar, super burger, shredded pot roast, salad bar. Yeah, you can mix it up a lot at
You
Eaton
got some
Park.
good mozzarella sticks, too.
Yeah, cheese curds too.
Oh,
cheese
so
curds, good cheese curds.
That's my favorite. I'm a plain guy. I'm burger. Burgers, fries, you know. Plain burger, no lettuce, no tomato. I'm weird.
You know, so you're like Joe.
I'm exactly like Joe,
Oh,
yeah.
God.
You should have saw us at Sheets at 3 a.m. in Dayton, Ohio. That was an experience.
Oh, no, I can imagine.
It was certainly an experience. Well, Nick, I really do appreciate you so much again for taking the time to come down here. Sorry about the whole Uber debacle before things happened.
Hey, it would have been worse if I drove myself, so it's okay.
You might be in Cleveland. Who knows?
Yeah, I might make it.
But is there any final words you would like to leave anywhere where the fans can come and find you at?
You find me on Facebook. Just search my name on YouTube. Same thing. There's so many interviews and videos, you know, me announcing. I'm on Twitter at Nick LENDL, Instagram, Nick LENDL Announcer. I'll be at IWC on the day before Thanksgiving at the Wheeling Nailers Arena, West Banco Arena in Wheeling. I'll be on the call with Joe Dombrowski for the first time in a few months. So I'm excited to tag team with Joe again, and just looking forward to the rest of the year and what 2026 brings for the whole broadcast team in IWC, because it's looking up.
It's a good team.
Yes.
It's a really good team. Well, Nick, thank you again so much for coming on. Thank you all so much for tuning into another episode of Two Jagoffs. New episode will be out this Thursday. Thank you all so much again. See you in the next one.